This podcast from the UNESCO Inclusive Policy Lab is part of a series of short discussions about different themes arising from the work of the lab and the Inclusive Development Agenda. In this podcast, we will be exploring the gaps in the research on inequalities and the potential of transformative knowledge to enhance our understanding of inclusive policymaking. We will draw on the World Social Science Report, published in 2016, and in particular Melissa Leach's chapter, which introduces the third part of the report and sets the agenda for transformative responses and pathways towards equality. Inequalities are accelerating around the world with damaging consequences. The World Social Science Report explores how multiple inequalities – economic, social, cultural, spatial, environmental, political, and knowledge – interact and often reinforce each other, their diverse configuration in different countries and regions, and their effects and implications for different groups of people, but ultimately for us all. The IMF warns that inequality hurts growth and exacerbates the barriers and injustices faced by people because of their gender, ethnicity, or geography. Through the adoption of the Sustainable Development Agenda, with its goals 10 and 16 dedicated to inclusive development, and another 4 goals anchored in it, the international community is firmly committed to inclusive development. The 2030 Agenda is premised on such a change. For this, resources are required, and so is political will. But the foundation of all is an improved science-based understanding of the issues and their solutions. As we just stated, inequality is not a singular notion. On the contrary, inequalities are multidimensional, multi-layered, and cumulative. The World Social Science Report makes clear that effectively addressing inequalities requires going beyond wealth and income disparities to counter their political, environmental, social, cultural, spatial, and knowledge axes. Policies and solutions will not be feasible and sustainable unless they are as multi-pronged as the inequalities they are set to untangle, and this requires robust social science research. Furthermore, the matter of knowledge goes to the heart of a transparent and wise change management. Robust evidence and research can and should inform policies, underpin decisions, and enable the management of the shift towards equitable and inclusive societies. To quote the Director General of UNESCO, Irina Bokova, investment in knowledge is a down payment for such an informed change under the Sustainable Development Goals. Firstly, and perhaps paradoxically, we need to acknowledge that there are inequalities in the research into inequalities. This is a crucial notion to understand. Inequalities are, undoubtedly, a major concern for social science today, as demonstrated by a 5-fold increase in studies of inequality and social justice in academic publications from 1992 to 2013. However, the World Social Science Report reveals 2 major knowledge divides in research into inequality that are yet to be bridged. The first divide refers to the focus, which is too narrow in too many studies. As the report shows, too little attention is currently paid to the overlapping inequalities that go beyond income and wealth to reach health, knowledge, or gender. The research is also disproportionately concentrated in certain disciplines, such as economics, education, or political sciences. Other social science disciplines, such as gender studies and psychology, lag behind. The second divide in the research concerns the concentration of social science research into inequality in the global north, where a reliable knowledge base already exists. This happens to the detriment of the countries of the south without similarly robust data. Over 80% of publications on inequality in the past 20 years are by researchers based in North America and Western Europe. It is positive to see an emerging middle-income country such as South Africa, with its particular historical legacy and current levels of wealth inequality, among the leading countries in terms of research produced. But very few articles are produced by researchers in India, China, and Brazil, let alone in the poorest countries, where those who are most affected by the bottom end of global inequality live. There are 4 recommendations to address the gaps in the research on inequalities. 1. Multiple intersecting and cumulative inequalities require multidimensional knowledge. A research agenda in this area needs to acknowledge all 7 dimensions of inequality: economic, social, cultural, political, spatial, environmental, and knowledge, so as to improve understanding of their intersecting dynamics and their consequences over time and around the world. 2. To make progress in these areas means going well beyond current technical debates, such as that on the measurement of economic inequality, important as these are. This means a shift towards integrating a far wider range of disciplinary lenses when setting agendas and defining frameworks for research, including not only anthropology, sociology, psychology, geography, political science and legal studies, but also the arts and humanities. Even when research addresses issues such as education, health, political participation and gender, which range beyond income, consumption, employment and wealth, there is often an implicit push towards the quantification of these dimensions. This trend may well be reinforced by the need to monitor the indicators of the Sustainable Development Goals. 3. A second shift is needed, one that goes beyond quantification, integrated well-designed and conducted qualitative and participatory methods, and developing innovative combinations of quantitative and qualitative research to better understand why and how inequalities persist. 4. Transformative pathways require transformative knowledge, transformative in what it covers, how and by whom it is produced and communicated, and how it interlinks with action and change. A new social science research agenda is needed to accompany and inform pathways towards greater equality. This means there needs to be increased support for knowledge production about inequality and the processes of social inclusion and exclusion in those places most affected by them. We need to improve our ability to assess, measure, and compare the dimensions of inequality over time and across the world. We need to deepen our understanding of diverse experiences of inequality, as well as deepening our understanding of how multiple inequalities are created, maintained, and reproduced. We also need to further our understanding of how local and global forms of inequality connect and interact. So to reiterate, what is needed is a step change towards a research agenda that is more interdisciplinary, multi-scale, globally inclusive, and conducive to transformative knowledge. This means a stronger understanding of intersecting and multiple forms of inequalities through multidisciplinary approaches, an understanding that goes beyond one form of inequality. This also means an agenda that moves beyond quantification, using innovative combinations of qualitative participatory studies, as well as quantitative methods that focus on why inequalities persist and how they can be overcome. In this way, the research agenda needs to move beyond just producing more social science. It needs to challenge inequalities of knowledge, of access, of construction and co-creation, and of whose knowledge counts.